The elevator opens on the 48th floor at 9:02 inches the morning. The man who steps out carries a briefcase that has seen better decades. The leather at the handle is worn pale. The brass clasp no longer catches the light. He wears a charcoal jacket, clean, pressed. But the cut is 3 seasons behind, and dark trousers that fit the way clothes fit a man who bought them when he still had reasons to dress for rooms like this. His name is Ethan Cole. He does not announce himself. He simply walks to the reception desk, sets the briefcase down beside his left foot, and waits. The receptionist, mid-20s, hair pulled back in a knot that communicates authority she has not yet earned, does not look up immediately. She finishes a sentence she is typing. Then she looks up. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" 9 o'clock, Ethan says. She types something. Waits. Types again. "With whom?" "The board." She tilts her head a fraction of an inch. The way a person does when they are deciding whether to believe you, without saying they don't. "I'll let Miss Bennett's office know you're here." "Your name?" "Cole," she types. Nods slowly. The way receptionists nod when they are not entirely sure what they have just looked at on their screen. "Please take a seat, Mr. Cole. They're finishing up something inside. It shouldn't be long." He looks at the seating area. 4 chairs in pale gray upholstery. A glass table with a single orchid in a white ceramic pot. The orchid is artificial. He can tell because it is too perfect. Nothing real stays that perfect. He sits. Jodianling Sanfen. The floor hums with the quiet machinery of serious work. Glass walls run the length of the corridor. Inside the offices, people move. Someone carries a stack of folders. Someone else leans over a monitor with the posture of a person who has been sitting too long and no longer notices. A woman in a red blazer speaks into a phone held tight against her shoulder, while both her hands work a keyboard. Ethan watches. On the far wall, a dashboard displays company metrics in real time. Revenue. Units. Engagement. The numbers pulse in clean white digits on a dark background. He watches the revenue figure for 30 seconds without moving. Something is wrong with it. Not catastrophically wrong. Not wrong in a way that would set off alarms or draw notice, but wrong in the way a clock is wrong when it loses 3 minutes a day quietly, consistently, and in a direction that serves someone. He looks away. Jodianling Wufen. A man in his 50s, the kind of build that used to be athletic, and is now just large walks past the seating area without glancing at it. He is talking to a younger man who is walking fast to keep up. The older man says something about a valuation floor. The younger man types on a tablet as he walks. They disappear through a door at the far end of the corridor. That was Dennis Hargrove, Executive Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. A man Ethan hired 8 years ago from a consultancy in Boston. At the time, Dennis had 2 things: a talent for reading rooms and an accent that made investors feel like they were dealing with old money. He still has both. The receptionist glances over at Ethan. He is sitting still, both hands resting on his knees, not checking anything, not looking impatient. Just sitting, the way a man sits when he has decided to observe rather than participate. She looks back at her screen. Jodianling Tsifen, a younger man assistant level, the kind of young professional who has confused busyness for competence, stops beside the seating area and does a half look at Ethan. "Are you the courier? The documents from Whitmore and Associates?" Ethan looks at him. "No," he says. The assistant blinks. "Sorry, my mistake." He leaves. Jodianling Bafen. The door to the main conference room, visible through 2 sets of glass, remains closed. The blinds inside are drawn. Shadows move behind frosted panels. Ethan reaches into the breast pocket of his jacket. He takes out a phone. Not the latest model. A phone that is 2 years behind and shows its small scratches on the screen, a slight discoloration on the corner where the case has worn through. He writes one email. He does not look at what he types for long. His thumbs move with the quiet efficiency of a man who has made decisions on small screens for a long time. He sends it. He puts the phone away. Jodianling Jofen. He stands. The receptionist looks up again. this time with the careful attention of someone who senses something has shifted without knowing what. "Mr. Cole?" "They're still." "I know," he says. He picks up his briefcase. He walks toward the conference room, not quickly, not with performance. Simply with the certainty of a man who has never needed a door to open for him, because he has always known where the doors are. He reaches the conference room. He opens it. He walks in. 3 years is a long time to be absent from something you built. Long enough that the furniture changes. Long enough that the art on the walls changes. The original Warhol print Ethan chose for the East Corridor was replaced with something abstract and expensive and meaningless. Long enough that the people change. Long enough that the people who remain forget what they owe. He had not planned to leave the way he did. His wife, Margaret, died on a Tuesday in November. A car accident on the I-95 corridor, in the rain, in the early evening when she was driving back from her mother's house. The investigation lasted 11 days. There was nothing to find. The road was slick. The other driver walked away. Margaret did not. Ethan sat in the hospital for 4 hours before the doctor found him. He had been in a meeting in Philadelphia. He had taken the first flight back. He arrived 37 minutes after she was gone. He did not go to the office the next day. He did not go the day after. He called James Whitmore, his general counsel, from the kitchen at 6 a.m. on a Thursday while his daughter slept upstairs. Lily was 4 years old. She did not understand what had happened yet. Not fully. She kept asking when Mama was coming back. Ethan could not answer that question. He could not run a company and answer that question at the same time. So he made a choice. He signed the papers. He handed operational control to the executive committee. He retained his equity, his founder status, his access technically, on paper, in a clause buried in Article 7 of the governance documents. He trusted them. That was the mistake. Not a naive mistake. He had known these people for years. He had built something real with them, or thought he had. But trust, like all things of value, requires maintenance. He had stopped maintaining. For 3 years, he watched from a distance. Quarterly reports, annual filings. He watched the numbers. He watched the trends. He watched the slow drift, too slow to call alarming, too consistent to call accidental of a company that was being quietly shaped into something someone else could acquire cheaply. He watched, and he waited, and he gave them the chance to stop. They did not stop. In the conference room, on the 48th floor, at this exact moment, 6 executives sat around a table that Ethan had chosen from a furniture maker in Vermont. The wood was white oak. He remembered arguing with the interior designer about the grain. He had been right. The grain was beautiful. At the head of the table sat Claire Bennett, CEO. 36 years old. The executive committee had elevated her 18 months ago, after the previous CEO, a man named Stuart Park, left under circumstances the press release described as pursuing new opportunities. Stuart had been the first to understand what Victor Hale was building. He had been the first to leave. Claire was not complicit, not exactly. She was, however, compliant. And compliance, Ethan had learned, has its own weight. She sat with her back straight and her eyes on the presentation. A merger proposal. The numbers were formatted cleanly. The language was optimistic. The valuation they were discussing, the one that would transfer 63% of the company's technological assets to a private equity firm whose principals were connected to Victor Hale, in ways that did not appear in any filing, was 17% below fair market. 17%. Not enough to trigger regulatory scrutiny. Not enough to make headlines. Just enough for someone to walk away very, very wealthy. Claire had a question mark in the margin of her printed copy. She had not asked the question out loud. The door opened. No one grasps what is happening for about 4 seconds. A man they do not recognize, or rather, a man none of them remember clearly, because memory blurs the faces of people who are no longer present, walks into the room and stands at the far end of the table. The presentation continues on the screen for 2 more seconds before someone kills it. "Excuse me, this is Dennis Hargrove." He has the voice for this. Deep, patient. The voice of a man who has removed unwanted presences from rooms before. "This is a closed session. If you'd like to speak with someone, reception can." Thank you, Dennis. Dennis stops. Something in the two words. Not the words themselves. The cadence. The economy. The absolute absence of apology. Ethan sets his briefcase on the table. He opens it. He takes out a single object and sets it gently on the white oak surface. A pen. It is a matte blue fountain pen, the kind that was fashionable in a particular decade, among a particular kind of optimistic entrepreneur. The ink is dry. The nib is slightly bent from years of use. It is not worth anything to anyone in this room, except to one person. Claire Bennett looks at the pen. Her expression does not change, but her breathing does. Just slightly. Just enough. She was present the day Ethan used that pen to sign the company's first major contract. She was 29. She was a junior analyst. She stood in the back of the room because there were not enough chairs. She remembers the pen. She looks at the man. She sees him now, truly sees him. The jaw is the same. The stillness is the same. The eyes, gray-green, the kind of eyes that take in more than they give back, are exactly the same. Ethan, she says. The room goes very quiet. Victor Hale is sitting to Claire's left. He is 51 years old, with the kind of physical fitness that is less about health and more about control. He wears his suits like armor. He looks at Ethan the way a chess player looks at a piece that has been moved in a way he did not anticipate. Mr. Cole. Victor's voice is precise, measured. This is unexpected. I think we all appreciate your... I came at 9, Ethan says. Victor pauses. The meeting was scheduled for 9 o'clock. I was told to wait. He looks at his watch. A simple watch, analog face, leather band. I waited 6 minutes. I find that sufficient notice. No one in the room fully understands what he means yet. Then the screens change. Every monitor in the room, the presentation display, the side panels, the status bar along the north wall flickers once, and then, Founder access, restored E. Cole. The room does not make a sound. Victor Hale makes a sound. A small one. The sound a man makes when a door he believed was permanently locked is opened from the other side. Ethan looks at him. Sit down, Victor, he says quietly. We have things to discuss. He does not raise his voice once in the next 22 minutes. He does not need to. He opens his briefcase and removes 4 items. A thin folder, a USB drive, a printed spreadsheet, and a transcript held together with a single paper clip. He lays them on the table in a precise row, the way a surgeon arranges instruments. He begins. In the 3rd quarter of last year, this company's platform division was assessed by an independent auditor at a valuation of approximately $4.2 billion. That assessment is not in question. He pauses. The question is why the current proposal prices the same division at 3.4. He opens the folder. The answer involves a secondary holding company registered in Delaware in March of this year. The principals of that holding company are not disclosed in the merger documents. They are, however, disclosed in a separate filing that was made in Luxembourg in April. He slides the folder to the center of the table. The name that appears in that Luxembourg filing as the beneficial owner of a 19% stake is a name that several of you will recognize. Victor Hale does not move. He is very good at not moving. Dennis Hargrove looks at the folder without touching it. 2 other executives, a man named Roger Ashby and a woman named Patricia Sue, exchange a look so brief it might have been imagined. Claire Bennett looks at Ethan. Why didn't you come back sooner? She asks. The question is genuine. It is the only genuine thing that has been said in this room in a long time. Ethan looks at her for a moment. Then, he looks at the table. Because I thought the people I trusted would make the right choice, he says. I gave them time. I gave them room. He is quiet for a moment. I was wrong to wait. He reaches into his pocket and takes out his phone. He plays a recording. It is a phone call. The audio quality is clear. A professional-grade recording, the kind made deliberately, by someone with access to a secure line and a reason to document. The voice is Victor Hale's. Unmistakably, if the valuation holds above 3 to 6, we're exposed. Get Hargrove to push the legal team on the disclosure language. and keep Bennett in the loop on the surface numbers only. She asks too many questions if she sees the full picture. The room is a held breath. Victor's composure does not break, but it shifts, just slightly. The way a very large, very heavy object shifts before it falls. Ethan stops the recording. He looks at his watch. "I gave you 6 minutes in the lobby," he says. "I will give you 6 minutes now. If anyone in this room has something to say that changes what I have just presented, this is the time." He sets his watch on the table. The second hand moves. 1 minute. Roger Ashby looks at the floor. 2 minutes. Patricia Sue folds her hands. 3 minutes. Dennis Hargrove opens his mouth once, closes it. 4 minutes. Victor Hale looks directly at Ethan. There is something in his expression that is almost admiration. Almost. The way a man admires the mechanism that is dismantling him. 5 minutes. Claire Bennett looks out the window. The city is 48 floors below. It looks patient from this height. 6 minutes. Ethan picks up his watch. "All right," he says. "That's all I needed to know. There is another life happening at the same time as all of this. It is smaller. It smells like toast and orange juice. And the particular soap Lily uses, the kind with strawberries on the label that she picked herself at the grocery store, and that Ethan buys in bulk now because the disruption of switching brands is not worth the mourning. Lily Cole is 7 years old. She has her father's eyes gray-green, observant, and her mother's mouth, which quirks up on the left when she is working something out. She works things out frequently and thoroughly, and sometimes at great length, usually at breakfast, usually about topics that do not require immediate resolution. This morning she is working out whether snails experience boredom. "I think they probably don't," she says, carefully spreading butter to the exact edges of her toast, "because they don't have very much to compare it to." "That's a reasonable position," Ethan says. He is standing at the counter in a shirt without a tie, eating a piece of the same toast. He has not put on his jacket yet. The jacket is on the hook by the door, but if they don't know they're bored, is it still boredom? "Philosophers disagree," Ethan says. "What do you think?" He drinks his coffee. "I think boredom requires expectation. If you don't expect anything other than what you have, you can't be bored by it." Lily considers this. "Is that why you don't seem bored, even though we mostly just stay here?" He looks at her. She is 7. She says things with the unguarded precision of someone who has not yet learned that honesty can be impolite. He loves this about her fiercely and specifically, not the way you love a general thing, but the way you love a particular thing that you are aware you will not have forever. "I'm not bored," he says. "No." She finishes her toast. She looks at the clock on the kitchen wall. "You have that meeting today," she says. It is not a question. She has her mother's habit of stating things that others frame as questions. "I do. The one at the tall building." "Yes." She is quiet for a moment. Then, "Are you going back?" He washes his cup. He sets it in the rack. He looks out the kitchen window at the yard, overgrown slightly on the left side where the old garden was, where Margaret planted lavender 3 springs before she died, and where the lavender still comes back every year without being asked to. "I'm going to fix something," he says. "That's different from going back." She accepts this. She slides off the stool and carries her plate to the sink with both hands, the way he taught her. Because she is tall enough now to carry it without dropping it, but not quite tall enough to be casual about it. "Okay," she says. "Fix it good." He takes his jacket from the hook. He goes. Victor Hale has been in difficult rooms before. He has sat across the table from federal regulators. He has managed the press cycle on 2 significant corporate crises. He once negotiated a settlement in a room where everyone in it understood that the terms were entirely theater, and the real agreement had been made 3 days earlier by people who would never be in the room. He knows how rooms work. This room is not working the way he designed it to work. He had prepared for several versions of this meeting. He had not prepared for this one. The variables he had calculated assumed a 3-year absence translated to a 3-year disconnection. That the man who had walked away from the company to raise a child would be, in practice, finished, softened. reduced to whatever a man becomes when he trades ambition for school pickups and grocery runs. He had misunderstood what kind of man Ethan Cole was. He had mistaken absence for surrender. After Ethan plays the recording, Victor makes his move. It is the only move left to him, and he knows it is not a good one, but the architecture of the situation requires it. With respect, Victor says, the context of that call is being misrepresented. Strategic discussions of this kind. Victor, one word, not loud. Victor stops. Don't, Ethan says, just that. And something in the room, in the air of the room, in the particular quality of silence that follows that single syllable, makes Victor understand that the move he was about to make will not work. Not because Ethan is stronger, necessarily, but because Ethan has already mapped every exit, and none of them lead anywhere useful for Victor. He sits back. Ethan opens the second document. It is not a financial report. It is a series of emails, internal communications from the past 14 months, selected and printed in chronological order. They tell a story. The story is not flattering. The emails show the deliberate erosion of a company's core valuation methodology. They show the selective disclosure of information to the board. They show a pattern slow, patient, incremental of preparing an organization for an acquisition that would enrich 4 people enormously and harm the remaining 2,312 employees who work in this building and its subsidiaries. He does not read the emails aloud. He simply places the stack on the table and lets it sit there. Dennis Hargrove's hand moves toward the stack and then stops, as if he has thought better of touching it. I found these 17 months ago, Ethan says. I spent 14 months verifying them. I wanted to be certain. He pauses. I did not want to be the kind of man who acts on incomplete information. Claire is looking at the stack of emails. Her jaw is tight. She had suspected. She has to admit that now, at least to herself. She had suspected that the numbers she was seeing were not complete. She had sent 3 separate emails, carefully worded, professionally deniable to Dennis and to Victor, asking for the underlying assumptions in the valuation model. Each time, she had received a response that answered a different question than the one she had asked. She had noted it. She had filed it. She had told herself she would address it when the moment was clearer. The moment had never gotten clearer. She had told herself that was not her fault. Looking at Ethan's face now, the patience of it, the specific restraint of a man who has been watching from a distance for 3 years, she wonders if she told herself too many convenient things. The clock on the wall reads 9:41. Ethan looks at it. He looks at the people in the room. He picks up his watch from the table and holds it in his left hand. I'll give each of you 6 minutes, he says. Not together. Separately. Starting now. Everyone looks at him. If you have information that materially changes what I have presented this morning, information that I do not have, that is truthful, that is documented, you have 6 minutes to tell me. He sets the watch on the table again. After that, I will proceed with what I know. Roger Ashby speaks first. He is 44, a man who joined the company 6 years ago from a private equity background, who has the slightly trapped look of someone who made a choice a long time ago that felt reasonable at the time and has been living inside the consequences ever since. I was told the valuation was being reviewed by external counsel, he says. I was told the Luxembourg structure was compliant. By whom? By Victor. Ethan nods. Did you verify that with external counsel directly? Ashby is quiet. No, he says finally. Okay. Patricia Sue does not wait to be invited. She is 53, the company's head of legal operations, and she has the posture of a woman who has spent 3 decades being the smartest person in rooms that refuse to acknowledge it. I want to say on record, she says, that I raised concerns about the disclosure language in the merger documents in February. I put those concerns in writing. Those emails were not responded to. I know, Ethan says. I have them. She blinks. Your concerns are noted, he says, and I believe they are genuine. Dennis Hargrove says nothing. He looks at the table for his full 6 minutes. At the end of it, he looks up. I knew, he says. I thought it was, I convinced myself it was. He stops. You don't have to explain it to me, Ethan says. I understand how it happens. This is, somehow, the worst thing he could say to Dennis. Not because it is cruel, because it is not. Then there is only Victor. Victor does not use his 6 minutes the way the others did. He uses it to be very still and very watchful. The way a man is still and watchful when he is calculating whether there is a remaining angle and concluding, slowly and with great difficulty, that there is not. When the 6 minutes end, Victor says, I'd like to speak to legal counsel before continuing this conversation. That is your right, Ethan says. The conversation is over. He picks up his watch. He puts it in his pocket. He reaches into his briefcase and takes out the final item. A single sheet of paper. He does not read it aloud. He signs it with the blue pen. The paper is not a termination notice. It is a resolution, a founder's directive, authorized under Article 7, Section 4 of the company's governance charter. A section that was written 8 years ago by a man who, even at his most optimistic, wanted there to be a mechanism for accountability that could not be easily overridden. He slides it to the center of the table. Board will convene at 11, he says. I'll expect the notifications to go out in the next 15 minutes. He looks at Claire. She is the only one he looks at directly. You'll chair it, he says. She does not look away. Yes, she says. There are no raised voices. There is no security team in tactical gear. No dramatic escort. No public spectacle in the lobby, where colleagues watch through glass as the powerful are reduced. Ethan did not want any of that. He never wanted that. What happens is quiet. At 9:53 a.m., the keycards belonging to Victor Hale, Dennis Hargrove, and Roger Ashby are deactivated. Not dramatically, the system sends no alert. Makes no announcement. The cards simply stop working. They will discover this when they try to return to their offices. At 9:54, 3 members of the company's legal team, who have been briefed in the past 48 hours, and have been waiting in a conference room on the 40th floor with coffee they have barely touched, take the elevator up. At 9:57, Victor Hale, Dennis Hargrove, and Roger Ashby are informed, quietly and in writing, of the terms under which they are separated from the company, effective immediately, pending review of the documentation compiled under the founder's directive. Victor says very little. He has good lawyers, and he knows it. He will say very little for a long time. He will say it to many lawyers in many rooms over the next 18 months. Dennis Hargrove says something. It is not memorable. Roger Ashby asks if he can get his jacket from his office. The legal team says yes, with escort. Patricia Sue remains. Her concerns, documented and genuine, are noted in the resolution. She will serve as interim head of compliance during the restructuring. The conference room empties except for Ethan and Claire. They sit at opposite ends of the white oak table. The city is behind Claire. The door is behind Ethan. Between them, the blue pen rests on the table. Claire speaks first. I should have pushed harder. Ethan is quiet. I knew something was wrong, she says. I didn't know the extent of it, but I knew. She looks at the table. I told myself that I needed more information before I acted, that I needed to be certain. She glances up. That's what Victor told me every time I asked. That we need to be certain before we escalate. He was very good at that, Ethan says. He was. She pauses. I let him be. Ethan does not absolve her. He does not condemn her either. He simply lets the statement exist, without comment for a moment, which is its own kind of response. You didn't betray the company, he says finally. You didn't benefit. You made the mistake of trusting the wrong people and not trusting your own judgment enough. She looks at him. That's a generous interpretation. It's an accurate one, he says. I've made that mistake. The trust in the wrong people part. He pauses. That's actually why I'm here. She almost smiles. It is a complicated, almost smile, the kind that acknowledges the irony without pretending it is funny. What happens now? She asks. He leans back in his chair. Now you chair the board meeting at 11. You present the governance directive. You oversee the appointment of an independent review panel. He pauses. And then you decide whether you want to stay. She looks at him. You're offering me a choice? I'm always offering people choices, he says. That's the point of having a governance structure rather than an autocracy. He looks at the table. The choice I'm offering you is whether to be the person who helps rebuild something or the person who was present while it nearly fell. Those are different records. They lead to different futures. She is quiet for a long moment. And what do you want? She asks. I want the company to be what it was supposed to be, he says. I don't need to be the person running it, but you could be. I could be. He looks at the window. The city is there, patient, 48 floors down. But I have other things I need to do. He is home by 3 o'clock. The afternoon is mild for the season. One of those autumn afternoons that feels like an apology for the summer that preceded it, the light tilted and golden, the air carrying the faint suggestion of wood smoke from somewhere down the street. The house is a colonial in a neighborhood that is quietly affluent without performing it. He bought it before the company went public, before there was money enough to buy something larger, and he did not move when there was. Margaret loved the kitchen. The kitchen had a window that faced east, and in the morning the light came through it at an angle that she said was the exact right angle for thinking. He goes in through the side door. He sets his briefcase by the door. He takes off the jacket. He looks at the kitchen. The light is coming through the window at the wrong angle for the afternoon. It would be right in the morning, as it always was, but the window is still the same window, and the light is still the same light, just repositioned. He fills the kettle. At 3:22, the school bus stops at the end of the block. He hears her before he sees her. Her footsteps on the front walk have a particular rhythm, the heel-first landing of a child who is still working out the mechanics of her own stride. He has memorized this sound the way you memorize the particular knock of a particular door, without meaning to, simply through repetition and attention. The front door opens. I got 100 on the spelling test, Lily says, from the hallway, before she is even fully inside, including necessary with 1 C and 2 S's, which Miles from my class said was impossible, but it isn't. It's actually a rule. It is a rule, Ethan says. She appears in the kitchen doorway. Backpack on, jacket unzipped. A smear of something orange on her left sleeve that is either marker or the remnants of a snack. She looks at him with the particular attention she brings to things she is assessing. You look different, she says. He pours the tea. Different how? She sits on the stool. She thinks about it seriously. Less far away, she says. He sets the mug on the counter. He looks at her at the gray-green eyes that are his, at the left tilting mouth that is her mother's, at the orange marker on her sleeve that is entirely and only hers. Yeah, he says, maybe. She unzips her backpack and takes out a worksheet with a satisfaction that suggests she is planning to finish it before dinner. She spreads it on the counter. Did you fix it? She asks, without looking up. I started to, he says. How long will it take? He drinks his tea. A while, he says. But other people are doing the rest. I just had to make sure the right people were in the right places. Like a puzzle? Like a puzzle. She writes something on the worksheet. She is left-handed, like Margaret, and she holds her pencil with the same rotated grip. Baba used to say that, Lily says. Then she corrects herself, quietly, without drama. Mom, I mean. She called it Baba. When I was little, I remember, Ethan says. She said the best puzzles are the ones where you have to try the piece in 3 places before it fits, Lily says, because then you actually understand why it goes there. He looks at his daughter. She is working on her worksheet. She does not know she has said something that will stay with him for a long time. She was right, he says. I know, Lily says. She usually was. They are quiet together for a while. The kitchen is warm. The light shifts as it does in October, angling lower, stretching the shadows on the floor. He makes something simple for dinner, pasta, salad, the kind of meal that requires no ceremony and tastes, in its straightforwardness, like something close to peace. After dinner, they sit in the living room. Lily reads. He sits across from her with nothing in particular in his hands, which is unusual, and which she notices. You're not working, she says. No. She goes back to her book. After a few minutes, is that okay? Yes, he says. It's better than okay. 3 months later, the company announces a comprehensive governance restructuring. The press release is 16 paragraphs long. Most journalists summarize it in 2 sentences. A major technology firm has overhauled its leadership structure following an internal review, and its founder has resumed an advisory role. The 2 sentences are accurate as far as they go. They do not go very far. What the 2 sentences do not mention. They do not mention the independent review panel that examined 18 months of financial decisions and produced a report that will be referenced in academic case studies for the next decade. They do not mention the new internal reporting system accessible to every employee at every level, encrypted, routed to the board's independent oversight committee that went live 6 weeks after the governance directive was signed. They do not mention the 11 employees who used that system in its first month to report concerns about practices in their divisions, all of which were investigated, 4 of which resulted in corrective action. They do not mention Claire Bennett, who is now, properly and without qualification, the CEO of the company. Not an acting CEO, not a provisional CEO, not a CEO who chairs meetings while the real decisions are made in other rooms by other people. She has made, in 3 months, 14 decisions that are visibly her own. Some of them are good. One of them is probably a mistake that will become apparent in the next quarter. She has been told about the probable mistake by 2 members of her newly restructured leadership team. And she has listened. And she is watching the relevant metrics carefully. This is what good leadership looks like. It is not the absence of error. It is the presence of accountability. Ethan reviews the quarterly data on a Tuesday morning in his home office, which is also the room with the east-facing window. He does not interfere. He reads. He notes. He sends, occasionally, an email short, pointed, specific to the Independent Oversight Committee. When he sees something that warrants attention, he is not invisible. He is not running things. He is watching the way you watch something you care about. Carefully, from an appropriate distance, with the discipline not to step in when stepping in is not required. His formal title is Founder and Senior Oversight Advisor. He keeps his old phone. On the 4th Saturday of November, 3 years and 13 days after Margaret died, he takes Lily downtown. It is a Saturday, so the business district is quieter than usual. The towers stand in their rectangular rows, patient and indifferent to the day of the week. The light is good, cold and clear, the particular clarity that comes with November air that has been cleaned by 2 days of rain. He parks the car on a side street. They walk. Lily has her hands in her coat pockets, and her chin slightly raised in the way she walks when she is taking things in seriously. She has Margaret's walk, too, that long, considered stride. They come to the building, 48 floors of glass and steel, and the particular geometry of serious ambition. He has not been inside since the day of the resolution. He has driven past it. On certain routes, you cannot avoid it. But he has not been in. They stand on the sidewalk. Lily looks up. She looks for a long time, the way she looks at things she is considering from several angles. Is this yours? She asks. He looks at the building. He looks at it honestly, the way you look at something that is part of your history and your making, but that has grown, in its growing, beyond the dimensions of what you put into it. It has 2,312 employees now. It has a cafeteria on the 12th floor that serves lunch to 140 people on any given Tuesday. It has a server room in the basement that processes, he checked the number 2 days ago, 4.7 million transactions a day. None of those things existed before he started it. None of those things are his, now, in any practical sense. In the only sense that matters. No, he says, this is something I built and left for people who know what to do with it. Lily considers this. Like how you fixed the loose board on the back porch, but Grandpa actually made the deck. He looks at her. Exactly like that, he says. She nods. The logic satisfies her. She looks at the building for another moment. Is the lady in charge of it now, Claire? Yes. Is she good? He thinks about it honestly. She's getting there, he says. She's learning the right things. He pauses. She'll be good. Lily accepts this with the particular trust she extends to his assessments of people, which she has learned to consider reliable. "Okay," she says. She takes her hands out of her pockets and looks at the sky, pale blue, the exact shade of late November, that shade that is almost gray but isn't. Then she looks at him. "Can we get hot chocolate?" she asks. "Yes," he says. She takes his hand. The way she has done since she was small enough that he had to angle his arm down to reach her, and now she is tall enough that she reaches for it at a different angle, but she still reaches. They walk. The building stays where it is behind them. Patient, doing what buildings do, standing in the particular relationship to the sky that it was designed for, containing the particular work that it was built to contain, serving the particular purpose that, with some effort and some cost, and some time it has been returned to. He does not look back. He has already seen it. What he watches now is his daughter beside him, matching his stride, talking about hot chocolate with the same specificity she brings to all questions of preference, whether they should go to the place on Cortlandt Street with the Venezuelan cacao, or the newer one on 3rd that has the cinnamon on top. She is making a serious case for the cinnamon. He listens. The city moves around them. The November air is cold and clean and exact. This is the life he chose. Not instead of the other one. Not in defeat of it. Not in retreat. He chose it the way you choose the thing that matters most, when you finally stop confusing the things that merely matter most right now. He chose it. And he is choosing it. And the difference between those two tenses is the whole of what the last 3 years have been. Lily makes her final argument for the cinnamon establishment. And also, she says, "It's closer. Which means we get there faster. Which means we drink it while it's hotter. Which is the whole point of hot chocolate in the first place." He squeezes her hand. "That's a strong argument," he says. "I know," she says. They turn left on 3rd. The building on the 48th floor continues without them, as it should. The metrics move. The decisions are made. The cafeteria serves 140 lunches on Tuesdays. The reporting system receives its reports. The independent committee reads them. Somewhere on the 23rd floor, Claire Bennett is in a meeting that is her own meeting, running it the way she runs meetings now, directly, without managed disclosure, without the careful architecture of controlled information. It is also the only way. And on a sidewalk in November, 2 people walk toward hot chocolate and the warmth that is waiting inside a door that is not yet open but will be, in a few minutes, when they arrive. That is enough. It is more than enough. It is, in fact, the whole point.